Hello, welcome to the Rights View channel. I'm Suhas Chakma. Yesterday, the Citizenship Amendment Bill has lapsed in Parliament, and everyone in the Northeast is claiming victory over this. Today, we have Mr. Suhas Chakma with us to discuss the various contentions and controversies surrounding this bill. To start with, I'm going to ask Mr. Chakma, what do you think, what impact this failed attempt to introduce the bill have had?
I think this failed attempt to introduce the Citizenship Amendment Bill has many effects. One of the effects is that BJP shall be identified with the CAB in the Northeast, and BJP came in the Northeast as an alternative to the Congress, and the first step taken by the BJP government was to sign an agreement of intent with the NSC and IM with respect to solution of the Naga political crisis. And people in the Northeast thought that yes, we are going to see a ray of hope for peace in the region. And thereafter, of course, the BJP government had taken many initiatives in the Northeast. Prime Minister Modi had instructed all the ministers to go to the Northeast, and in fact BJP had come to power in the Northeast with the exception of Mizoram. There was a feeling that the Northeastern region had actually started the integration process, and BJP was seen as change from the Congress's rule in the region. But with this one singular stroke, I think BJP had, in a sense, I would say, damaged the trust it had established with the people of Northeast India. That's one aspect. The second aspect of it, I think people in the Northeast thought that they had resolved the foreigner issue. It's a thing of past, and people have been moving on after 40 years of struggles on the issue. But today I think you realize that those feelings have been reignited. So these are the, I think, two serious consequences which you could immediately see, and obviously it will possibly have impact at the political level because of the kind of posturing which the people in the Northeast have taken.
So has the foreigners problem in the Northeast been resolved with this?
Look at the reaction of the people in the Northeast. Yes, the foreigners issue or the concerns which they had with the foreigners has been resolved. But on the ground, I think you have to look at in terms of the sentiments of the people vis-a-vis the foreigners, as well as the real situation which is provided by the statistics of the government of India. If you look at the statistics of the government of India, there are about 187 applications for long-term visas submitted by the people from Bangladesh from 2011 to January 2019. If you go by the guidelines of the government of India on the grant of citizenship, the first step is the long-term visa to be granted to the persons interested. So you could say that only 187 persons from Bangladesh would be willing to apply for citizenship. So the data on the ground, doesn't support the fear about the foreigners. But on the other hand, I think you have enormous amount of concerns about the foreigners coming to the Northeastern region. And in my own personal view, based on the statistics available with the census of India, the foreigner issue is actually continuation of the problem which we had from the partition of India. From 1947 till 1971, because of the problems of partition and the India-Pakistan relationship, enormous amount of Hindus had migrated to the Northeastern Indian states, and especially the bordering states have been affected, and it led to the anti-foreigner agitations in the 1970s, and obviously those issues still remained on the ground, and I think it is mainly in Assam rather than anywhere else. So if you talk whether the foreigner issue has been resolved, no, it will not. It has not been resolved, and it will continue to remain one of the critical issues that defines the Northeast.
So how serious do you think this foreigner issue in the Northeast is?
See, the foreigner issue, if you look at state-wise, obviously Assam, where the National Register of Citizens process is continuing, that's where I think the problem lies, and that's where the epicenter of the issue. After Assam, you have Meghalaya. In Meghalaya, obviously they have an issue with the foreigners, and Tripura, as we know, I mean, indigenous peoples, because of the influx of the people fleeing persecution, they have been reduced to a minority. So the states neighboring Bangladesh, it has been an issue of concern. But never forget that the people who have, come to India prior to 26 March 1971, they are considered as citizens of India under the Indira Mujib agreement. So if you look at the 7 states in the northeast, you have to go by the legal definition of foreigners. It's not necessarily the Foreigners Act which defines the foreigners, it's the Citizenship Act. And as per the Citizenship Act, somebody who is born in India by 1st July 1987, irrespective of the status of his or her parents, whether a citizen or non-citizen, they are citizens by birth. And if one of the parents is a citizen of India, his or her children actually a citizen of India if they are born prior to 2003 as per the existing Citizenship Act. But as per the existing Citizenship Act also, the Hindu refugees who have come from Pakistan, they have been applying for citizenship because they have stayed for over 11 years in India, and if there is no problem to submit applications for citizenship in Rajasthan, I cannot see any legal bar to apply for citizenship in such a manner in Northeast India. So that is as far as the identification of the foreigners is concerned. But if you look at, for example, Mizoram, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh, even the Indian citizens are required to take permission to visit these states under the inner line regulations. So where is the question of foreigners you are talking about? I think these states are mainly talking about the fears of what has happened to Tripura and Assam in the last 50 years or last 70 years because of sharing the borders with Bangladesh now and earlier with East Pakistan. Foreigners in Northeast India are not defined based on the law. It's defined based on ethnicity. So if you go to Mizoram, the Chins who are 120,000, they are not considered as foreigners by the Mizos. So similarly, along the borders from Arunachal Pradesh all the way to Mizoram, if people come from the Burmese side, they are not considered as a foreigner. But whereas if you come from East Pakistan or the mainland side, even if you are an Indian citizen, you might be considered as a foreigner. So identification foreigners is a complex issue. It has to do with the identity politics. So this issue is not about who is a foreigner or who is a national. This issue is in a way about the Bhumiputras of the region and the non-Bhumiputras of the region.
Why do you think that BJP government has actually introduced this bill in the first place?
See, the BJP government has introduced this bill in the first place just to get out of the whole National Register of Citizens process in Assam. They knew from the beginning that certain number of people, Hindus, whatever the reasons, will not be included in the NRC process. But once the first NRC draft had come, the president of the BJP went on record to say that all these 40 lakhs people who have not been included in the NRC are goosepaitias. But if you look at today and the statements of the officials of the BJP, including Himanta Biswa Sarma, the deputy chief minister, that large number of people, about 20 lakhs to 25 lakhs people who are not included in the NRC process are actually Hindu-speaking, Bengali-speaking Hindus. So how do you address them if they are not included in the NRC process? And obviously they are going to vote in the coming election. They are a substantial vote bank. And how do you assuage the sentiments of the people who are excluded from the NRC process? And the only way they wanted to do is basically bring this Citizenship Amendment Bill, but they wanted to include these people or assuage the sentiments of these people with respect to bringing a legislation by excluding, say, for example, the Muslims. But if you look at the ground situation, where is the problem of the refugees who are coming from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh? The maximum number of people who fled from Afghanistan are Sikhs. They are living in Delhi and Punjab. Has any of the objected, is that an issue that Afghan Sikhs have come to India? No, that's not an issue. The Hindu refugees from Pakistan have come to Rajasthan. Is that an issue in Rajasthan? Obviously not. West Bengal is the recipient of the largest number of Hindu migrants from 1947 till date. But is foreigner an issue in West Bengal? Obviously not. So when you go and tell people in West Bengal that we are going to give you citizenship, people basically look in they look surprised. What are you talking about? Because in West Bengal nobody is identified as a foreigner. So it was a problem that started with Assam, and they thought if they bring the entire country together, then maybe they will have the sufficient support, and that was not the case. And I think it failed simply because you could not bring a law that will not at the end of the stand scrutiny of the court on the basis of equality and non-discrimination.
So has this bill in some ways actually reignited feeling of alienation in the northeastern part of the country again?
Absolutely. If you look at today, I think when you have the former Chief Minister of Mizoram, Lantanwala, holding a flag saying Republic of Mizoram, hello China, you could see the extent of alienation. Maybe Mizoram is an extreme case. But in the northeast, if you look at the reaction of the local political parties or the regional political parties, it's very clear, whatever goodwill has been achieved by the BJP has been actually destroyed with one singular stroke of this law. And even if you bring this law, it is not going to change. At the end of the day, the state government does not recommend citizenship as per the existing law. How are you going to grant the citizenship? So it's a meaningless exercise for the BJP.
So one final question, do you think India needs the CAB or any other law to address the issues?
See, if you talk about persecution of people, no civilized country governed by the rule of law can reject a people or a person who comes to India for seeking refuge. And India had seen the largest number of refugees in the 20th century after the partition of India. We had the Tamil refugees, we had the Tibetan refugees. Actually, you need to have a refugee law. See, refugee law enactment will help the government to formulate its policy. A refugee law is something which first adjudicate whether you are a refugee or not, because every minority need not necessarily be a refugee because of his or her origin, unless he or she is persecuted or can prove that he or she is being persecuted. So therefore, if you look at the countries all over the world, first they have a refugee law where you claim the refugee status, and once you are given refugee status, then you remain in the country, you find a job, you are given a work permit, then over a period of time then you seek the naturalization process. What the government of India is doing here is that you do not claim for your refugee status, you are straight away given citizenship. And the only place or the only country where it is done is in Israel. That even if you are a Jew, even if you come from Mizoram, you will be granted citizenship based on your Jewish origin. I do not think India can afford to have that kind of a law, but surely because India receives large number of refugees and it shall continue to receive large number of refugees, it needs to have a refugee law. And under such a law, basically a Tamil who is persecuted in Sri Lanka because of Hindu religious origin or his ethnic origin is as vulnerable a Hindu in Pakistan and Bangladesh. And how can you discriminate that? If you make those discrimination, obviously it will not stand scrutiny of the law. And it's unfortunate that you are pushing a policy which is continuation of the Congress policy, because the BJP is following the policy which Congress had followed under Nehru, when about 300,000 Indians were expelled by the Myanmarese regime in 1962-63 after dictator Nehru took over. India just meekly accepted all the Indian origin people. And today what are you doing? You are exactly doing the same thing. Whereas the government of India should have asked Myanmar government at that point of time, look, they are citizens of Myanmar. Myanmar became independent in 1945. Then they have lived there for so many years. Now it's your responsibility. And what is the government of India doing today? Government of India is saying that you are most welcome here without realizing that it cannot bring all the persecuted minorities from the neighboring countries to India. What India has to do is to take up the issue with Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan, saying that you need to ensure the security of the minorities, and then instead of doing that, you are just providing incentives, and that's why it had to fail, and it failed.
Thank you, Mr. Chakma, for joining us in this very important discussion. Thanks for watching the show, and please do subscribe Rights View channel.